It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, episode 48 of the Trademate Sports Betting Podcast. Our normal episode today every Thursday with George and Harout, but exciting news. We are previewing the welcome back of the EPL Game Week 1. We did a preview last week of the EPL, so make sure you go and check that out. George is involved. Unfortunately, we missed Harout last week, but he's back on board. And I'll probably just say off the top that I personally am in a really shit mood. So I'll do my best to fake my emotions, but I just had another cancelled flight back to Australia for tomorrow. So I'll fake it as much as possible, but I don't even know what to say. I'm just I'll try and sound excited about this weekend. Firstly, I'll introduce George Gamble, card betting expert, mate. How are you? And also, I'd like to state 2 weeks ago, when we did do a betting preview, you picked out a nice little winner, Rennes, at decent odds. And you actually, the good thing was, mate, is I think you said it was at like 2.1 or something like that, and then it firmed into 1.887.
Yeah, it was around that. It was definitely a heavy drop in terms of price, but I knew it happened considering going in there. It was just the wrong odds completely. So as soon as the lineups were announced, you just saw that price plummet. But yeah, it was a good pick.
Yeah, it was beautiful to watch. And I will, there's quite a funny story. Our head developer, or one of our head developers, Jan, he messaged me like an hour or so after he saw the podcast, and he goes, mate, I've got all these free bets that he had to turn over with Sport Market or something like that. And he's like, what do you reckon? Like, should I follow what George said? And I was like, I mean, I would, but maybe I wouldn't put the amount of money you're thinking of putting on, because he had something like $5,000 worth putting on. Anyway, so he ends up putting on 2K on your pick, mate, which I think is ludicrous. Like, I wouldn't be staking that much. His staking needs some serious adjustment, but but there you go, mate. You've made our head developer a very happy man.
Oh, what can I say? More than welcome.
Best part is he's gone on holiday this week, so I wonder why.
I was going to make a joke then, but I'm not going to. In your current mood, I shan't.
And Harout, how are you, mate? You also picked out Mallory Martin last time we were around. How's your betting been going the last couple of weeks?
It's been pretty good, actually. The first week of September has also been profitable, so we just keep our streak going of most consecutive profitable months in a row.
Cool.
But yeah, I think I gave out like 4 or 5 UFC picks last week, and I think like 4 out of those 5 were winners. Yeah, so you can go back and rewind that tape too. So
rewind that tape on you, mate. Well done. I should have picked that up. That's my job, but I'm sorry, not doing my job too well at the moment. And all right, in the theme of I was picking out this quiz question just because of my my joy of going back to Australia tomorrow. But anyway, we'll go with this quiz question. Name 5 Australian past or present EPL players. Obviously, we do the answer at the end. I reckon George could. I was going to go with 3, but I rate you, George. I reckon you can get more than that. So I went with 5. But Harout, mate, maybe you just want to give me the 1.
Yeah, probably. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll see. Do some research in the meantime, mate. All right, so this week we'll go through. I've picked out 3 of the most exciting games, I guess. We got Fulham Arsenal, which kicks off everything on Saturday at, what would that be, 12:30 British time. And then I've looked later that day, you got Liverpool Leeds. We'll look at that game. And then I think game of the round would be Tottenham Everton on Sunday afternoon. And then we can maybe have a look at some of the other games if you guys see any betting opportunities there. So yeah, like I said last 2 weeks ago, I think we'll be here every Thursday previewing the EPL and any other betting opportunities that George and Harout see going on. But yeah, let's kick it off, fellas. Fulham Arsenal. Odds for this one, best odds for this one, 6.5 for Fulham, 4.5 draw, and 1.59 for Arsenal. Just looking at this one from an overall perspective, Arsenal, you'd have to say they're probably in the best form they've been in for years, even though it is right at the start of the season. Team news, Louise in doubt. He might actually be out for 6 weeks, or he might play this game. I think it's a neck injury or something around the head area. So it's kind of a bit in limbo in terms of he'll be playing. And I think you'll be unlikely to see some of the big new signings like Magalhaes, maybe not Saliba either, because he's still very young. And I don't know if they'll put him right into the spotlight straight away. I assume it'll just be a very similar team, the one that they put out against Liverpool in the Community Shield. Fulham, on the other hand, newly promoted, and the only team news for them is Stefan Johansson is currently suffering from an ankle foot injury, so I'm not sure if he'll be playing either. George, mate, what are you seeing in this one?
Yeah, well, the prices kind of dictate, really. It's everything sort of pointing to an Arsenal win, including the statistics. So, I think Fulham have lost the last 5 Premier League games against Arsenal, and conceded 9 in their last 2 top flight games against them as well. I think it was a 4-1 and a 5-1 victory in the last time that Fulham were in the top flight. I think the Gunners have lost just 1 in 13 Premier League games at Craven Cottage, so it's a place they like going to. And Arsenal, I think, last opening day defeat to a promoted side was in 76-77 against Bristol City. So it was quite a while back, so they don't tend to lose to promoted sides when they play them on match day 1. Also, as well as that, Aubameyang's been involved in 16 goals in 13 Premier League appearances against promoted sides. That's 12 goals and 4 assists. Fulham are hopeless against Arsenal. They just tend to be that way. So the kind of, as I said, the price is sort of pointing towards that. So yeah, I think Arsenal would win. But in terms of kind of value, I wouldn't be going Arsenal for an outright win. It's simply too low. So potentially looking at goals. In terms of cards, it's difficult at the moment because obviously it's the first game. You can never quite tell how things are going to go. You can refer to sort of last season's discipline table, but again, things change, new signings happen, so a lot of that can be kind of unuseful. But yeah, Arsenal definitely going to win this one in my opinion. Fulham, yeah, they've got Mitrovic up top, but Arsenal, as you said, probably in the best vein of form of recent times for them with the results that they've had. But yeah, so no, like I said, I'd fancy Arsenal for this one. But in terms of trying to find value and trying to find a play on it, I'd potentially be looking into the goals market, really. In terms of maybe like Arsenal over 1.5, something that nature, or half time, full time, something like that. So I think that'll be far too much for Fulham. Yeah, they've got Mitrovic up front. He's probably their best player. But in the rest of the park, Arsenal are simply too good. So potentially half time or full time result for Arsenal would be a player there.
With that record that Aubameyang has over the newly promoted sides, or at least lower league sides, and the form he's in at the moment, he's one of the best strikers in the world at the moment. There's an argument that you could say he's number 2 behind Lewandowski in terms of form at the moment. So yeah, I think that's an angle maybe you could look at too if the odds are right there, that you could go Aubameyang to score a goal, or maybe score a couple. He scored another goal in a friendly the other day. Can't remember who it was against, maybe Aston Villa or something like that. Yeah. So that could be an angle too. But I will say, as an Arsenal fan, I get very worried about these kind of games just because we perform really well against the big teams. But I don't think we've been as good. I think it depends on what Fulham do. If Fulham sit back, then I'll be quite worried. I don't know how they perform defensively, but if they sit back a lot and ask Arsenal to take the play to them, I might be a little bit more worried. But if they want to take the game to Arsenal, then I'll be a lot more happy with that kind of scenario, just because our creativity is just really lax in the midfield at the moment when teams sit back. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes there. But yeah, I couldn't, even as an Arsenal fan, I couldn't touch those 1.59 odds at the moment. No. Haru, is there any movement in the markets at the moment?
Well, the market kind of moved early in favor of Arsenal. It opened at around 1.69 in the Asian market, specifically at Pinnacle. and we've already seen some early plays on there, probably picking up the bit of value that was already there. But I guess if you find anything that's a little bit behind Pinnacle or exchange prices, and you're getting like maybe like a 1.6 possibly, I'd probably, wouldn't mind to play there. I think that there is at least a bit of wiggle room in case the market retraces a bit. But at the current Pinnacle price, it does seem like it's kind of leveled off. So there has been an early move. If you got on Arsenal when the lines first came out, I think you have some good value there. But I just keep an eye out to see how the market holds itself over the next day.
Yeah, so is it similar to the UFC? I mean, I remember you saying in the UFC how if the early value is taken on a favorite, like something around that 1.7. Bloody hell, I've got a frog in my throat today, fellas. So if you see like an early drop on a favorite, is it the same as you said in the UFC as for football? Would you say that they kind of keep driving that price down?
Yeah, I mean, there are obviously when a market's first released, I think that given the information that's available to all the bettors out there in the world, they're going to correct the early soft prices that the sports books release. And that's one of the most important times to probably find value. And then the second most important time to find value is when information comes into the market during the opening price and the closing price. And then the last hour or two when lineups are being released, that's also an opportunity of a window to find more value bets because more information is coming in. Yeah. But anytime a market moves early, I think that's one of the strongest moves you can find because price is correcting itself in the market.
So I guess in terms of pieces of news, you'd have the possibility of Luiz missing out. I don't think that would affect the price too much, but considering he's been a very consistent starter for Arsenal, then maybe that could affect the price a bit. And then also team lineups is the big one, I guess, especially these days because with the coronavirus, it's very, I guess, unpredictable, isn't it? What teams could come out.
And it's also when a team is getting promoted from Championship and coming to EPL. It's not like your other matchups like Arsenal and Liverpool to be able to set a more efficient price. There's a little bit more opportunity there to probably get an inefficiency on an opening line if you're better. So I think that's probably what we've seen here. Just maybe a little bit of bets or money coming on the side of Arsenal. Just maybe they're seeing something there, but. Other than that, that in the early first few weeks of the league coming back, you'll probably see like the most inefficiencies happen early on.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. All right, fellas, we'll move on then. Liverpool Leeds, Liverpool at 1.3, draw 6.5, and Leeds at 11.5. I've just noted down here, Liverpool a little bit slow after the restart, you would say, and then the Community Shield, they lost to Arsenal too, although it was on penalties. They will be missing Oxlade-Chamberlain still, and there's a chance that Henderson might be back, so that could be the big in, maybe that spurs them, I guess, maybe into some better form than we've seen lately. Leeds newly promoted, and I guess everyone is very excited to see how they go under Marcelo Bielsa. Are you excited, George, mate?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Simply feeling, like you just said, Bielsa in the Premier League. Finally, we've seen what his Leeds team are like. I'm looking forward to the antics of Bielsa. Obviously, we've seen Spygate in the Championship, so let's see what else comes to the Premier League. But no, I'm looking forward to it simply because I think Leeds perform against the big teams. We've seen in cup competitions in the past years that, obviously against yourselves. I think it was last season when you played Leeds in the cup and.
They dominated us in the first half. It wasn't even it wasn't even a game. But luckily, they just I guess they couldn't convert the XG.
Yeah, well, no, exactly. And obviously, we've seen them invest in their side as well with the signs of Rodrigo, Costa, and they've got Koch at the back as well. So no, I think they're investing well, trying to obviously shore up their side. I don't think it's annoying. I'd love for them to pick up a result at Anfield. Absolutely love it. But
how good would it be?
Yeah, I don't see it happening though, personally. I think Leeds might. I think they'll struggle for this game. I think they'll be okay this season. I think they'll be more than okay. I think they'll do well, surprise a few, similar to the way Sheffield United did when they came up. But yeah, I think Liverpool are gonna win this one. They've won 6 out of the last 7 opening day games. In fact, under the last 4, under Klopp, they've scored 15 in those 4. So they like opening day games. Only 2 promoted sides have ever beaten the title winners away from home on match day 1. And that was Notts County versus Villa in 81-82 and West Brom against Arsenal in 31-32, even longer ago. So, it doesn't happen very often. Interesting, though, a play that could potentially be is Salah could become the first player to score in 4 consecutive match day 1 games. So that might be a player to sort of have a look at. It was an interesting stat there. And I think Leeds last season, when I watched them a few times, a lot of players are getting behind them. So if they allow Salah in, I think he'll have a few opportunities to score. So that could be a play. But yeah, I don't think Leeds are going to leave Liverpool with 3 points. So I think they'll be lucky to leave with 1 point, if I'm honest. But no, it's a game I'm looking forward to. It's going to be a cracking sort of game between Klopp and Bielsa. It's just going to be good all around. So I think quite a few people are looking forward to this one. But in terms of plays, I reckon Salah to score might be a shout, potentially in play though, because obviously with the prices, if he hasn't already scored in the first half, I might have a look at that one. But again, I also want to be maybe looking at the goals market in terms of the overs. But
you would think plenty of goals in this one, wouldn't you? Because I guess Leeds aren't your most standard newly promoted side, or at least they're not really. You'd probably say they're maybe a mid-table club at the moment. They're not going to sit back like like a Crystal Palace or something like that.
Oh no, the thing is, Bielsa doesn't coach his sides like that either, does he? He coaches them to want to win games and play football. The trouble is, you go to this season, if they go to the likes of Liverpool, City, Chelsea, teams of that ilk, then they might get torn apart. But at the same time, they love applying pressure, and that's the kind of best way to achieve a result against those sides. You constantly pressure and harass them, force them to make mistakes, and then you get results. We've seen teams do City quite a few times. So no, I think there'll be goals in this game. So I think there'll be a hatful of chances. So for me, definitely the over. I want to be seeing what the overs line is, whether that be both teams combined or individual sides. I think Leeds will get on the score sheet. I don't think it'll be a shutout. But yeah, so potentially the over 2.5. But no, Salah to score interests me, like in play, just to see what that price would be, and go from there. But yeah, a fascinating game.
Yeah, interesting. Considering Salah hasn't been in the greatest form either, but might be if he knows about that record, mate. I'm sure he'd be wanting to score a few goals.
He's lost his hair from it as well, isn't he?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I've got the afro now.
He's lost the fro. Speaking of hair, maybe Haru could do with a few of the curls, eh?
What a transition that is. What a transition. Oh, my word.
I could give you a few of mine, mate, if you want. Sorry, mate. That was a bit low of me. I'm sorry. I'll ask you very nicely then the next question. How are the markets looking, Haru, mate?
I mean, not bad. Not as much movement as the Arsenal game, but in this one, they're kind of backing the underdog a little bit. Not that it's moved much, but Leeds, the Asian handicap's looking good. Some support there, nothing drastic, and a little bit of money too on the under, which kind of contradicts what George says, but it's nothing. This early, it's not a significant move to say that that's the correct side to play. I'm just kind of seeing what the early moves are. But I'd probably keep an eye on this one to see if the support keeps coming on Leeds, because that's what it looks like early on.
I think the Romantics are kind of hoping. I think the Romantics are hoping for a new result, aren't they? So that's why the money's coming in for them, I think.
Yeah, it opened at 1 3/4, 1.75 is dropped to 1.5 now. So we'll see if it holds there or if it keeps going. But as of right now, it's nothing. There's no significant move.
What were you saying has dropped? Sorry, Haru.
The Asian handicap, pretty much the goal line between our Liverpool and Leeds. And then there has been just a tiny bit of support on the under. The total goal market opened at 3.25. It's dropped to 3. So looks like there is just a tiny bit of support on the under for right now. We'll see if that changes, but that's because it's congruent with the support on Leeds. If they're supporting Leeds goal line, then they're going to support the unders. It's just the markets usually move together.
So are you by looking at the markets, are you thinking that the money on Leeds is dumb money, I guess, maybe the best way to put it. It's not smart money.
It's possible. I mean, because it's not really a significant move, so I can't really say that this type of a move is a correction of an early inefficiency, because Arsenal moved a different kind of way. It moved quite a bit. So that one, if I see a big move early on, that usually means that there's some type of a correction there, because as a sportsbook trader or someone managing the lines, I'm going to move a lot harder and faster if I know that an overwhelming amount of money is coming, especially from profiled accounts that are, generally winning long term. The markets just move faster and harder to correct those kinds of early price inefficiencies. So I see more of that in Arsenal than I do with Leeds. Leeds doesn't really look like a serious move.
Okay, so there could be a possibility of maybe it's a good time to take Liverpool now. I don't know. What do you think? Take Liverpool now because their price might drop again?
It's possible. Right now, I'm pretty mutual. Like me reading the market, I wouldn't say that, as a trader, of course, I wouldn't say that I can play either side right now. But it's one of those where if you are seeing some moves that have already come away from the opening price, usually in those spots, you'll find some type of an opportunity, because if non-smart money is coming in on a game and it drives the price low, then the sharps will come back and gobble up any value that's left in the market. So that's something to keep an eye out. And in this case, like you asked, maybe it's a good time to buy Liverpool. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay. Cool, mate. All right, fellas. Spurs, Everton. This is my game of the round, I guess. There's two decent teams, two top half teams. Fighting it out, and I mean, there's not much like big games in round one, I guess, between top half teams. So this is just my thoughts. Thought it might be a good game. 1.9 for Spurs, 3.75 for the draw, 4.5 for Everton. New signing Matt Doherty and Wait, you corrected me this time last week. I'm going to have a go. Højbjerg. Is that right? Højbjerg or
Højbjerg.
Højbjerg, there we go. So they might feature for Spurs, their new signings. And then Everton, we didn't really talk about them too much on the preview last week, but they've done some pretty handy business. A few big name signings in James Rodriguez, Decore and Allen. What are your thoughts on Everton this season, first off, George?
My thing with Everton is, how many times have we seen it? When we get into the start of a new season, we look at the signings they've made and we think, oh, Everton have put together a decent side there.
I mean, especially when they signed Iwobi last year.
Of course, we can forget that absolute masterclass.
30 million for Iwobi, probably the worst piece of business I've ever seen done.
Yeah. But no, how many times have we seen it? And, we think they can have a really good season pushing for top six and they finish bottom half and struggle. Like we see it all the time. I know, now they've got a very, very good manager. In Ancelotti, obviously, but with Rodriguez, I find that would have been a world-class signing if it had happened 5 years ago, not necessarily now. Real Madrid let him go for, I think, what was it, 22 million euros? Villa just spent more than that on Ollie Watkins. For that price, I kind of question the signing, but there's no doubt he's got quality. So, I'm happy to be proved wrong and see a Rodriguez masterclass every now and then in the Premier League. But I don't know. I want to see Everton a bit higher in the table, but I'm not holding out too much hope given history. And they're coming up against the Spurs side, obviously on the opening day, and they've not. I think Spurs are unbeaten in each of their last 15 Premier League matches against Everton, they're winning 8 and drawing 7. So obviously it's not as one side as it sounds, but nevertheless, Everton haven't picked up the win. In fact, they've not beaten Spurs away since 2008 November. And Spurs have won their opening fixture for 3 seasons on the trot, but they've not won 4 since 67-68. They've not won 4 opening games on the bounce. But and Everton have had a man sent off, interestingly, on match day 1 for 2 consecutive seasons. So if they can make that 3 in a row for having a man sent off on the first game, that'll be a record. No other team's done that. They've won just 1 of their last 19 Premier League games in London. So when they've travelled to the capital, they're usually horrendous. But Kane scored 9 in his last 9 Premier League games against Everton as well. But the one bit that interested me here is Pickford has conceded more Premier League goals against Spurs than any other club. He's never kept a clean sheet in 8 top flight 8 top flight games against Spurs. So for me, I think everything here is just screaming for a Spurs win, and I do fancy Spurs. I think simply for the fact that Everton, all these new signings, I really like the signing of Allen. I think that'll prove to be a very good addition. Doucouré obviously already got Premier League experience with Watford, so that's an astute signing as well. So obviously a few of their other signings might need to sort of learn how to play, with other players at Everton. It might take a bit of an adjustment period, but it shouldn't take too long compared to the likes of Chelsea, who obviously brought players from abroad, and so I think they'll hit the ground running to begin with. But I just feel like Everton often flatter to deceive, and I don't think they'll finish top half, in my opinion. I think it'll be maybe like 10th bang on, but I don't see them pushing that top 6 or anything like that. I just think there's too many better teams than them at the moment. But for me, it's got to be a Spurs win outright, possibly Harry Kane to score as well. May have a play, depending on who the refs are in the cards, just simply for the fact that Everton absolutely love a card on the opening day, it would appear. But yeah, for me, Spurs win. I think you said, what was it, 1.9?
Yeah. I thought of looked at that first when I first saw it. I was like, okay, I don't mind those odds for Spurs, but I should have asked you this earlier. You haven't said too much about cards this podcast. Is that because you're waiting to are you using the data from last year, or do you like to use a whole new set of data going into the season?
You can use old data to a certain extent, but obviously, new signings, this, that, and the other. A lot of different variables change within that. So, you get some teams that are always kind of near the top of the cards table when they're playing in a division. So Watford, for example, they're always up there. I think I discussed it in a previous podcast. But Arsenal, for example, they finished top of the discipline table last season. But I think the season before they finished around 14th. So all of a sudden they just came a lot dirty. You can't really tell. So for me, I'll refer to it in a sense of if teams are very similar, too many new additions or too much has changed there, I might have a look so you can kind of compare it against the previous data. But overall, I kind of like to wait until around 5 games in to really get a feel for sort of, right, okay, so that's the way a team goes. Because if they're consistently making fouls, consistently getting cards, then that's kind of a pattern leading forward. But because, as we always say in this, it's all about long term. It's never the short term. So if I've got to wait 5 games of a 38-game season before I can actually have some proper card plays, then so be it, because I don't want to be losing in those first 5 games. But yeah, so that's probably why I wouldn't be having to play on cards too much at the moment. And obviously, as the season goes on, you'll see more and more cards. But yeah, for this round, I think Spurs to win at home to Everton. Also, Jose Mourinho, he's got one of the highest win percentages on the opening day. I think he's got the highest one than any other manager, to be fair. So everything, all the stats pointed to a Spurs win for me. So that price of, as you said, 1.9 does look quite good.
Yeah. Okay, mate. And then Haru, are you seeing anything similar in the markets here? Have they had an early push for Spurs, or maybe did they open at a bigger price?
It's been pretty stale. They opened at 1.9, and it's hanging around there right now, 1.9. Even for the total goals market, I'm not seeing really much movement. It's pretty stale. I think that right now there's nothing really to play, at least for me. I'll probably continue monitoring this market and see if any value plays arise later on. But as of right now, nothing really interests me on that game specifically.
All right, mate. You just you got me very unexcited about that game.
No, I'm not excited about that one.
I tried to.
I want to see these teams that come up every year. That's like my favorite set of games when the new teams get promoted. I like watching them play their first set of games against good teams. See how they perform.
Yeah, well, I mean, Leeds, Liverpool's the best example of that, I think, more so than probably Arsenal, Fulham. Yeah, all right, fellas. Well, we might as well just get straight into if there's any other games you guys want to talk about. I'll start with you, George. Is there anything in the cards market or anything in just general EPL stuff or all around the actually, we'll just keep it to EPL for now. Is there any other games that interest you at the moment?
Kind of looking at all through them. I mean, the ones that we've covered, I feel I've got the best kind of A value and B stats towards them. I kind of looked at West Ham Newcastle was one of the other ones I looked at, and there's not kind of too much there. I'm kind of wanting to watch those games more out of interest to see if I can pick up a few things to look out for in the future. But no, the ones we've discussed today are definitely the ones that I feel that there can be some good profit made from. So yeah, those would be my favourite three really. So luckily for listeners, those are the ones that we've discussed.
Yeah, good stuff. And then I will mention to everyone that there's 4 games on Saturday, 2 games on Sunday, and then there's a further 2 games on Monday. And the Monday games are actually pretty good too. You've got Sheffield, Wolves, and Brighton, Chelsea. So you might get a new look. It'll be interesting. It'll be fun to watch Chelsea, actually, even though I really dislike them. It'll be interesting to see Werner and Ziyech. Ziyech might be injured, actually. But yeah, see some of their brand new signings. Haru, is there any other games? I mean, overall, what's the markets like for the EPL at the moment? Is it quite stale?
Overall, yeah, pretty stale. I think one thing that caught my eye on Monday is the total goal market on Wolverhampton Sheffield. That pretty much moved pretty fast when it opened up. The unders got hit. It opened at around like 2.05 most places.
Ooh.
And it's dropped down to it's almost at like 1.83 now. So I played that one. I hopped on it a little bit late, but I played like 1.96. So I'm holding value there because you can easily bet the other side for guaranteed profit if you wanted to. But I think that is the value side right now. In terms of like totals market, they've played the Sheffield one significantly compared to the other ones.
What did you say the line was for the Wolves Sheffield when it opened?
Under 2.05.
Yeah,
and it's currently sitting. I mean, that's a pretty significant move. It's at 1.84 right now, 85.
Wow. Okay, you definitely picked up some value there, mate. Those two teams are quite notorious. I mean, Sheffield United don't score too many goals, and Wolves concede barely any. I think they were I think you mentioned last week, George, that they were the 3rd best team defensively. Am I right or wrong? Second?
Yeah. No, I'm trying to remember the stats for what I said now, but yeah, defensively they're sound. They are defensively sound, and it was always one that between those two. You see how many times we see Sheffield United win 1-0 and then just shut up shop, and similar with Wolves getting a late goal. There's not always too many goals in their game, so. For that, that's it's great value and a great spot.
Yeah, and generally, like early on, especially for a game that has a total set at 2 goals, you're not gonna really see much square action, especially on an early line like that. And like nobody's gonna bet the Monday game under 2 goals 7-8 days away. Yeah. So it's one of those where if you see something like that and they're hitting the unders on a game, this is something that I recommend our viewers to keep an eye out for too. As soon as lines are released, if you see like an under 2 goals getting hit and it's dropping from 2.05 to 1.85 or 1.86, like you want to get on that because you know that's a real move. And those real moves early on, capturing those inefficiencies, those are going to hold massive closing line value.
Yeah. All right. No, that's tremendous, mate. Well done. Best bets of the weekend, fellas. We've been in some, I'm not going to say we because I haven't provided any, but you fellas have provided some good bets lately, especially you, George. I think you've had some really good ones lately.
I don't mind streaks. That's right.
Yeah, and I don't mind where it comes from, mate, because I know you can be a bit of an expert in League One and all these other European leagues. So, best bet of the weekend, George. What do you got, mate?
So my best bet of the weekend, keeping it in the Premier League, simply because of all the stats leading towards it, and kind of all of the variables, bearing in mind the way that Everton are going to be in terms of new signings. I've got to go for a Spurs win at that price of 1.9. I think is very healthy. I think that should be closer to around 1.7. Personally, I think that's the price that Spurs should be, given Jose Mourinho, just all of the stats behind. I'm not going to go into it again, but for me, it's got to be a Spurs win at that price as well. So that's going to be my best bet of the weekend.
For all the, I think last week we really hated on Spurs, but I think for all the for all the stuff we said about them, they're actually really settled going into the season. And Mourinho's been able to bring in just a few people that I assume he thinks will suit his system. And I don't know. I think.
I'm interested to see.
I feel like he thrives he might thrive. Second season, I mean, he's had a bit of time with them now. Like, this might be a, I don't know. I've had a little bit of think about it and talked to a few people, and I think maybe we've underestimated Spurs just a little bit.
Potentially. And how often do we see it where, to be fair, I was making a joke because a few people in my family are Spurs fans. I'm sort of saying, Jose Mourinho's notorious for going to a club, first season being exceptional, second season being all right, and then third season, utter capitulation, which leads to him leaving. I was like, you've not even got the first good season. So it's, but I reckon, obviously, he didn't have the whole of the first season, did he? So maybe this season they could surprise a few. And as you said, they're settled. He's brought in a few additions that he obviously likes the look of. I mean, the sign of Matt Doherty would suggest maybe there's a possibility for a formation change, or it allows him to do that occasionally. So who knows? Maybe this could be the season that they win a cup for the first time in a while as well. But I think keep an eye on them. I think you're right. They look settled, and I think they could be dark horses.
Yeah. I think we might have overlooked them a little bit last week, but anyway, we'll see. Harout, mate, what's your best of the weekend?
My best of the weekend. Are we doing other sports as well, or what?
Yeah, mate. Just your best, mate. Best bet of the week.
My best is I'm gonna give one that's gonna be for a couple hours after this video is released. So I'm playing Victoria Azarenka in the women's semifinals in the U.S. Open. I posted that on Twitter too. I just played 2.0. On Azarenka. I think that's a profitable number. If you guys can snag that up, I'd probably say that's a really good bet.
How's the US Open betting been going?
No, it's been very good. There's been a lot of short moves, and people have like really good information, especially during these times when players are coming back from COVID. Like the market's all over the place, and just like able to capture in on the volatility in the market.
What did you think of Novak's dummy spit?
Oh man, it's kind of like stupid, but it's also like in hindsight, when it's all done, you just like you laugh about it, because it's like one of those things where he obviously didn't deliberately mean to hurt her, but like he swings the racket, the ball is flying, and he turns around, and then like he has to do a double take seat, and he's like reaching out, like no, like my tournament's done, and it's just like it was crazy. I just I didn't expect. I knew he was frustrated and all, but I didn't expect him to take it that far. But the rules are the rules.
I mean, this is gonna sound really horrible and like really bad. It's not what you're talking about, but do you not reckon she milked it a bit? I'm not being funny, but you get it.
Do you reckon if she was like 25 or 30, it would have been okay? But the fact that she was an old lady, it just made it look so much worse.
Well, it's the way she fell. Like it just. I don't know. It's like.
I don't know.
I'm not buying
the only way I'd be able to say for sure is if I get hit at that age with a tennis ball in the throat by Novak. I can't say for sure. I don't want to jump into an assumption, but I mean, if I'm being fair,
not a cricket ball.
Yeah, but if I'm being fair, like if you're not expecting it or prepared to take a hit and something just flies at you like out of nowhere and you're that age, maybe it hurts, maybe it gets you. I don't know.
Maybe she had corona too. In the throat, corona. That's pretty rough.
Alex, with the absolute sick jokes today, he's not in a good mood, is he?
Yeah, I'm in a terrible mood. You guys have cheered me up a bit, but this definitely helps. Just hate on everyone basically. But yeah, I found it. I don't know, disqualification. Do you think that's a bit too much? Like,
I guess it's because they just have to protect the integrity of the Open. I mean, because it's one of those things where if it's in the rule book and you give favoritism to Djokovic, but you're gonna disqualify any other player who does the same thing. I mean, it's not really good for the sport.
But if the ball goes a bit to the left or the right and doesn't hit her, then what happens?
Then he probably gets a warning. But I guess it's in the rules where if you do an act like that and it ends up causing a physical
injury
impact to somebody or an injury, I mean, you automatically get disqualified. It doesn't matter how severe. If you're endangering somebody, I guess you are automatically disqualified.
There you go.
It's crazy the difference is though, because if you do that with your mates, that's just one hell of a shot.
Oh, you'd be so happy with that. Especially
Yeah.
unexpected too. Like she had no idea. That's the best
exactly.
part. Yeah.
The best part.
He had to.
I'm sorry, I cannot feel sorry for her. That was just fucking brilliant.
Yeah, he
The
had
best
to
part.
forfeit. He had to forfeit all of the prize money he had accumulated up to that point too.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that'll really hurt
Forfeit
him.
it. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's struggling. I heard. Poor kids won't get fed for a few months.
just get a tennis ball to the throat instead.
Yeah. That should be the punishment. Oh, mate. I wonder what he'd want more, getting kicked out of the US Open or a tennis ball to the throat.
Tennis ball to the throat.
Yeah. I mean, by the look of the reaction from the lady, then 100% he wouldn't be taking that tennis ball to the throat. Oh, jeez, so good. All right, quiz answer, fellas. We'll go Haru first, mate. Can you just name me one Australian player, and then we'll go.
I feel like
one's
too. I feel like one's too few. I reckon Harut's got it in the bag.
No, I only know one because I was out in Australia like a year ago and we were watching an A-League game and it was like they're talking about an EPL player out and he's finishing his last game in the A-League. I think it was Tim Cahill.
Oh yeah. I mean,
absolute hero.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so he did play a season or two of A-League after he finished in the EPL.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was like last year or last year I think. And
was it
I was
in the
watching,
World
like,
Cup
the
and he
last
scored an
game he was
absolute
playing.
screamer.
Oh mate, it's just the goal of my life. It was I couldn't believe it. All right, can you give me 5 more, George?
Yeah, I mean, I was writing down in case I forgot, but no, because I had Tim Cahill as well. Mark Viduka, the absolute powerhouse. Harry Kewell, Mark Schwarzer, Brett Emerton.
Oh wow, Emerton.
And Aaron Moy.
Wow, what a man. Can you give me one more then, Haru? You just been completely showed up, mate.
No, I can't. I give up. I keep telling you, I need a basketball question.
Was it Lucas Neal? Was it Lucas Neal?
Lucas Neal. There's Mark Bosnich is another famous one.
Yep.
There's probably there's lots. I mean, I could go through a list of them, but yeah, there's not too many nowadays. There was more so just like a golden period from like around 2000 to 2010-ish where we had so many good players. But
Is there anyone right now in the EPL that's like really good from there or what?
Moyes just left.
I was going to say Chris Wood. Is it Chris Wood? But he's New Zealand, isn't he?
Yeah, I think there's a Bournemouth player, I think. Is his name Adam Smith, maybe? He might be Australian.
Yeah.
But I think they're obviously gone now. So that's a bit sad, actually. There might be no... there's a guy called Reed. He's from New Zealand. So there's probably more Kiwi players than Australians in the EPL at the moment. So interesting stuff, fellas. And great podcast as always. Enjoyed some of those chats there. You can find George Gamble at CGeorge Gamble on Twitter and also check out some of his write-ups he's doing for We Love Betting. And then you can also find Haru at Bet Like Haru. And yeah, next podcast coming out, fellas. We've got our Pro Sports Bettor. We talked a bit about it before the podcast. Rob Pizzola, really good chat with him yesterday. So that'll come out on Monday. And other than that, thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you do a quick rate and review of the podcast and subscribe to us wherever you listen. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talk about every week on the podcast, value betting ones, please do a free trial of Trademate Sports and start your journey. But fellas, you've cheered me up a little bit, so thanks for that. And I look forward to seeing you again next week.
Cheers. See you then.
All right. Thanks, Alex.